Hi, everybody. It's Ellen Jaffe Jones, and I just got a last minute note from YouTube that I needed to rotate the camera. So I'm kind of squinched. I didn't really have time to set up the camera as I might have liked to from my 18 years in television days, which makes me a little bit of a perfectionist. But anyway, I wanted to share with you trying to do more YouTube videos, and lots of things are always happening, including be at the Space Coast Veg Fest this weekend. That's Cape Canaveral after doing Tampa a couple weeks ago, and trying to, it's peak racing season in Florida. So I wanted to share with you before I get into the Tabouli recipe, what's been happening with me just this past weekend, because people always come up to me as I'm holding one of these age group awards in my hand saying, oh, well, you can't run on a vegan diet. You can't race on a vegan diet. And of course, I've been doing it for the better part of 40 years, about as long as I've been trying to be vegan. And, it really does work. So I got first in my age group in the 5K at the Mayaca half marathon and 5K. That was in kind of the middle of Florida on Saturday. And everybody got a finisher's medal. That's the thing these days, I guess, at some of the bigger races. And then on Sunday, I did another race because why not? This was Just Against Children's Drowning, a great cause set up by some parents who lost their twins in a swimming pool to drowning. So they have lots of resources to make your pool secure and to just make sure you are good with keeping your kids away from water without supervision, especially. So I got senior grandmasters in this race, and what that is everybody between 60 and 69. That means I beat them out in my racing time. So with an age group, it's just a 5-year increment. That's the difference. So that was only 65 to 69, and I'm going to be 66 soon. So just to give you an idea how a plant-based diet, a vegan diet, has plenty of protein, right? And so many people just ask that question right off the bat. But I wanted to share with you my Tabouli recipe, and it's something I've made for my kids as long as I can remember. And we just have about a half cup of chopped tomatoes, any kind that you can get. Cherry tomatoes are particularly sweet. A cup more or less of chopped parsley. I didn't even measure it. I just used what was left. I used it in my recipe last night for dinner, so whatever was left over I used. And then I used an organic cucumber, but as you can see, it was starting to show signs of wear and tear and being in the fridge for 2 or 3 days. So I peeled it and cut it up, and then just picked a Meyer lemon off the tree. It still is a little bit green there, but good. We use that just to preserve the vegetables in the recipe and even still have. And I realized I just did a Facebook Live because so many more people watch me on Facebook than YouTube, and everybody says, oh, you should, jazz up your YouTube channel. And certainly I've tried that. I've even paid for help on that. And it's just like, no, I don't know. I keep thinking I paid a lot of money a few weeks ago for a mainstream race in our area to be vegan, have 100% vegan food. And, I'm really hoping that more people will copy that idea. So you try different things out there. You put a lot of time, effort, and sometimes money into these issues to try and help people to go vegan or at least taste the food. And the response was wonderful. They wanted me to do it again, but I'm not going to pay the kind of money I did to be the title sponsor, and then pay for the food and then bring the food the day before, the night before, and the morning of the race, and still run the race and place in my age group, which I did. So I'm just hoping more people will copy that idea, because having donuts and bacon at the end, K or 10K or half marathon just drives me nuts. I can't imagine. Oh, the last race I did, the not the children's, the drowning 5K, but the Mayaca 5K and half marathon. They had chocolate milk at the end of it. Ooh, it's like that's the Dairy Council's big campaign. They've made a big deal about telling people that they had it on their website. I don't know if it's still there, but a few years ago when I was a high school track and cross country coach, they had this very publicized campaign called Marketing Chocolate Milk, the best recovery drink for children. Ew. So the fact that I'm seeing all that chocolate milk at the finish line, and it was hard to find water, and I posted pictures on my Facebook page about that. I showed the empty water container where you had to dig deep down into the ice bucket to try and find a bottle of water. And some races are actually even, I've done some races recently where they're getting rid of the bottled water, that they have these portable drinking fountains, which are kind of cool. Or I just bring my own. And if they have water once on the course, maybe I'll drink it depending how hot it is. I usually have them, they have the throwaway cups, and I usually just say, throw it in my face to cool me off. So that's what I do. But back to the tabbouleh, I'm using cracked wheat, and I started to say for my previous Facebook Live, I put the wheat away, so let me go get that actually. I put it away, but that was the dry cracked wheat, and yeah, oh, it's almost done. So what you do is you soak it, and I'm going to try and show you this without dumping the water all over the place. But that is the cracked wheat or bulgur, whatever you want to use. And the weird thing was when I went searching for recipes online, because I just wanted to pull it up real quickly, as most people do now. Who reads books anymore? People tell me. And they say, you really should do more videos. But yeah, how do you get paid for this? Exactly. Yeah, because so many people are phobic about having gluten sensitivity or celiac, which is an actual test you can get at the doctor's office. And I know lots of people have lots of issues. If you follow me, you know that I've cured myself of psoriatic arthritis. My palms were all red, cracked, bleeding, and it was a mess. And I had all the symptoms that went along with that. So I get that foods can trigger these things. And sometimes, my joints will feel a little swollen, the finger joints in the morning. And I know it's probably from something I ate the day before. And one of them, the whole nightshade family is the suspect in some of these cases, like tomatoes are part of the nightshade family. And that's the timer telling me that the cracked wheat has been soaking an hour. And I can now mix all these ingredients together, but I got to drain the water first out of there, and I'm not going to leave you on camera with nothing here to show as I do that. So just can only multitask so much, you know how that goes. But I just wanted you to see these beautiful colors here, and this is such a simple and easy, fast recipe to make, and it's also incredibly cheap and will fill you up. And if you think you have an issue with wheat and genetic modification, although, from what I've read, there really aren't too many foods in the US that are genetically modified, if any at all. Hybridized, that's a whole different thing. So the difference is hybridized is where they're sort of encouraged to genetically modified through nature. Genetic modification is where they are forced through, I guess, against their own will, to get their genes going a certain way. And from what I have researched, there aren't really any foods in the US that are truly genetically modified. Now there may be seeds, there may be some kinds of other chemicals that are, well, I'm just not even going to get into the whole Monsanto thing. You can research that on your own. This is the thing about being a former television reporter. All these stories are like popping in your head, and you just have to kind of focus, especially for the purpose of doing this video. And the main reason for me in doing all this is just to encourage other people to go vegan. It's really the best thing you can do for your health, for the health of the planet, and of course for saving animals. And when there's so many different colorful, delicious recipes, it's just wonderful. That's the incredible thing. They had two newspaper reporters come to this race, and when I got senior grandmasters, and I was wearing my Eat Vegan on $4 a day shirt, and one of the reporters said, well, let me do just a separate story about you. And I said, I don't want to take away from the organizers of the race or anything like that, or the cause of the race, which is really good. He said, no, I'll just do a separate story. And having been a television reporter, I know how that goes. You try and do as much as you can and do enterprise. That was on Sunday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. 90 degrees in Florida, and I still get senior grandmasters. That alone should be a story. And of course, there hasn't been anything. And I think part of that is just the meat and dairy industry. They're the main advertisers. I have been told that I had a newspaper column that I did for free with a local newspaper, and the fish restaurant owners complained, of course, because they were the advertisers. And I was amazed I lasted 4 years doing that. But the publisher knew me from St. Louis, where I was a television reporter, and he had worked at one of the local newspapers there. So he was very excited to have a trained University of Missouri free. And, I did that again just to get the word out, and hopefully it did reach a few people before the fish, it was a fisherman who took over the column. Yeah. Um, yeah, that made me really sad to see that. And I believe that I've been turned down for jobs because I'm too vegan. And one happened recently where I was trying to get a part-time job as a personal trainer at a very large local gym that just opened nearby. And I'm pretty sure, if they check my social media, it's probably not going to fly. But, that's who I am. And I think many of us have come across situations. I'd love to hear if you have a situation where you think you've been turned down to a job for a job because you've been too vegan. Um, so anyway, that's the story of the sweet and sour life of being vegan. And I hope you have enjoyed this. And if you have any questions at all for me as a certified personal trainer, as a current book author of vegan books for since 2011, 6 different books, working on my 7th. Please feel free to put them down below. And if you have any topics you'd like to see addressed, capacity as a personal trainer and a vegan/runner for the better part of 40 years, please feel free to ask below. My whole thing is finish without injury. At this race that I did, the one on Sunday, there was another woman in my age group, and I had just met her for the first time, and she had started out ahead of me, and then I passed her, and then I started looking behind me just a couple times, and I noticed she wasn't there, and she was walking around at the finish line, hugging her, pulling on her glute, and she told me later she had pulled her muscle, and she said, I'm off my time by 2 minutes, and sometimes you just have to listen to your body, and I know it's hard when you're running and racing, especially the adrenaline kicks in, but I have probably the hardest part of running is using your brain and knowing when to back off, knowing when not to push the envelope. Because I've seen so many people get injured over the years. And you have to figure out what kind of relationship do you want with running. And that, to me, is totally what it's about. You got to figure out, do I want to be a flash in the pan and have the best possible time ever? Or do I want to back off a little bit and keep running for 40 years? I mean, sometimes it's not an either or kind of decision, but a lot of times it is. You really have to just listen to your body and see what can work for you. All right. Well, thank you all for watching. And, according to this, I just look at the numbers here and I think, why do I even bother with with YouTube? Because so many more people watch me on Facebook Lives, but people say, you gotta do it. So I am doing it. So be an herbivore, go running. At 65, you can do this too. And again, if you have any questions, I'm always around. All right, everybody, gotta run. If I can figure out how to turn this off. Let's try this. Yes, I want to stop streaming.